I'll try and be quick. We've got to fit all this in. I'm just going to show a video quickly to start with, get you all in the mood. And this video's got data in it, so I won't be talking data, but the video will cover the data. The other thing is you've got placemats on your tables. There's a heap of data in those placemats, so if you're one of those people who likes data, then go to the placemats. Thanks to our comms team for putting that together at very short notice. We did have a placemat developed for admin, I think it was, late last year. New Zealand started the placemat thing and every jurisdiction's been trying to catch up since. It's fair to say that that presentation, in my view, takes it to a new level. It's fantastic, so thanks to the team for pulling that together. I'm going to give a quick additional piece around the reflections for the last 12 months and what's happened in the biosecurity space in Queensland. And this will just add a little bit of hopefully colour and light around the data that's on the placemat. It's been a big year for animal welfare. You've seen this across the media in Australia, nowhere more so than in the intensive livestock industry. So Pat Bell's team did some fantastic work, working in partnership, very close partnership, I'll have to say, with animal biosecurity and welfare, but also with the police, with the Queensland Police Service, who were fantastic in relation to being willing to share their knowledge and information in this space. We've got prawn farmers back in production, and I know there's a presentation later on in relation to this. It's been a couple of years since the farms were put into quarantine and basically totally destocked, and a lot of work has gone by in that space. This has been a partnership with industry. Helen Jenkins is here, I know, was involved in the early days of the incursion. Wouldn't have been able to do what happened, and it was really to the benefit of those farms on the Logan River that this work has done as well as it has. My understanding is that the harvest from this last season was in the order of 400 to 500 tonnes from those farms that are now back in production. That's a lot of prawns. Panama we've already heard about. Can I just say, I was around, Andrew, when the false positive happened on up at Mariba, acting Chief Biosecurity Officer at the time. It was a challenging time. It did engage the industry more broadly, I think. That was the only benefit that I can see out of it. While we perhaps could have handled it better, it did wake the industry up to the fact that this is real and it's going to happen perhaps more broadly, rather than just down in the Tully Valley. The ABGC as an industry organisation has been absolutely fantastic to work with. The partnership between ourselves has been second to none in relation to not only responding to the disease, but also being willing to accept the opportunity to work together on a totally new way of operating transitioning to management, if you like, in a funding arrangement as well across government. Marine biosecurity, we're in early days in this space. We've got a marine pest education and awareness campaign was launched back in May. We've been talking very constructively with ports up and down the East Coast in relation to the role that they might play as well in this space. We've had a marine pest incident response exercise in the Port of Gladstone, for example, and we've got a very strong working relationship with the Narcs Rangers up in the top end of the state. This space is relatively new for us. It's incredibly challenging in terms of understanding where the pests come from and how we respond to them when they get here. I note that there's a pumice raft floating towards Queensland as we speak from the Central Pacific. I raised the question during the week as to whether or not there might be anything attached to that pumice raft when it arrives. I'm sure there will be, but is there anything we can do about it? I suspect not. Registered biosecurity entities. So for those of you who don't know about the RBEs, what we have is a register now for any entities who keep livestock, bees, horses and poultry in Queensland. The advantage of this is it enables us to push information to those entities in the if we have an outbreak of any sort of incident in relation to biosecurity. We've used it recently to push information out to beekeepers around the second varroa mite detection in Townsville, and we're also using it for those properties adjacent to the infected properties in the clean zone, in the clean tick zone, to alert them to the fact that they have an infection in their district. So we're already seeing positive examples of how what might be seen as a government compliance or a government imposition around a registered biosecurity entity being used for the benefit of industry, which is the reason why it's been put in place in the first place. So this idea of partnership needs to be communicated around these sorts of initiatives that government's been put in place as well. We work very closely with the federal government around the exotic fruit fly eradication program in the Torres Strait. It's been going since 1996. A lot of people probably aren't aware of it. We kill exotic fruit flies in the Torres Strait pretty much every year. The last 12 months has been the biggest we've had. Over 500 exotic fruit flies were killed in the blocking exercises that we have operating up there. We've got a very good relationship with, as I say, the federal government in that space, but also with the local community, and the people that are operating on the ground up there have been fantastic. The sense of ownership that they have around, of the sense of responsibility they have around biosecurity on behalf of the rest of Australia is really impressive. Cluster fencing, we've discussed. JP mentioned wild dogs in his presentation. This is an interesting one. Morgan Gronald's going to be talking, I think, later on this afternoon or tomorrow on this. The Premier initiated this cluster fencing program. She didn't do it because she was concerned about the wool producers in their tweed coats and woolen ties in Western Queensland. She did it because there were no shearers in Western Queensland anymore, which meant the impact on local communities was dramatic. So we are already seeing a marked increase in relation to improvements in gross margins around those producers that are going back into wool. We've spent nearly $20 million in the space, and I'll just quote a few figures. Rounds 1 and 2 of the Feral Pest Initiative have resulted in nearly 7,000 kilometres of fencing, protecting more than 400 properties. They're fairly impressive figures. And the last round that we just have underway at the moment will add another 2,000 kilometres of fencing. And the modelling shows, the economic modelling, JP, shows that we're seeing the potential to increase cattle margins by 27% and sheep margins by 48%. It's pretty impressive figures. Oh, and I should say, in terms of the partnership here, we are working very closely with the NRM bodies and with RAPID in Western Queensland, so we wouldn't be able to deliver this program. A cluster requires several properties to come together and cooperate, and the facilitation of that is not a simple process. and we wouldn't be able to facilitate that ourselves, and the role the NRM bodies and RAPID and the other organisations play is critical in this space. Northern Biosecurity I've mentioned. Ron Glanville played a big role in terms of facilitating the development of the Northern Biosecurity Strategy, and it was launched last year by the Minister in Torres Strait. We continue to work very hard with the local community up there, with the federal government and local government in Torres Strait around some actions and projects that we will implement on ground. I've got to go. Thanks, Will. Surveillance workshops. This came out of the North Australian Biosecurity, out of the white paper work. We've been running training workshops, if you like, for livestock disease investigation in North Queensland. So successful, really good reaction from industry and the vets. We're looking to continue to do this more broadly across Queensland going into the future. Once again, it leads to stronger partnerships between ourselves, our effort, and what's happening within industry and on the ground. Look, I just have to, this is a heads up to Andrew and Kathleen. This was fantastic on the Gold Coast earlier this year. It really had a buzz about it in relation to industry taking a lead, showing that they, the real commitment that there is towards biosecurity, and it was great to have it in Queensland. So thank you both for the work that you did in that place. Quickly on challenges, fire ants. You're going to hear from Graham Dudgeon, the General Manager, shortly. This is massive. This is a huge program, ramping it up to double the size that it was. All the implications that come with running a program of this size. You'll hear about more from Graham later on, so I won't go into it, but it is fair to say it's the thing that keeps me awake at night more than any other. Varroa mite, we've got a second incursion. We're just on the cusp of declaring the first incursion proof of freedom, and we get another one. This is coming from the same place. We know where it's coming from, but our capacity to actually intercept and stop it at the border is the issue. Having said that, we have, as I say, we're on the cusp of proof of freedom for the first incursion back in 2016. And on the basis of the capability that we've built in that space, Salvo has given me confidence that we will actually eradicate this in a much quicker time frame as well. The Catalytic Line, this is a really interesting question in relation to partnership. Those producers, what we've done is we've made it easier for the producers who are on the dirty side of the line to clear cattle in effect. The feedback we get from them is this is overwhelmingly positive. This is a great thing that you've done. You're saving us tens of thousands of dollars every year in relation to the way that we move our cattle. The people that are on the very near to the dirty side, on the clean side of the line, aren't quite so fond. It's fair to say, Alison, would that be a fair statement? And the press love it. So the press, anytime there's another incursion, they pick up on it and they run a story around the new policy is failing, it's letting the industry down, etc., etc. The interesting challenge for us from a partnership point of view is how do we get those producers who are getting so much benefit out of it on the dirty side of the line to stand up and say, this is fantastic, this is a good reform. Animal welfare, as I said earlier, continues to be a challenge for us. This is one where we need to be thinking more about what we do in the social media space. We are losing the social media war. We are losing community support in this area. And I am wrapping up, Emma. In fact, that's it. Thank you.